These bikers, men who are painted as rebels without hearts, felt something shift inside them. Every one of them had been through life's battles, had scars hidden beneath their leather that told stories no child should ever know. But this little girl, she carried a different kind of pain, fresh, raw, and undeserved. The president of the chapter stepped forward, lowering himself to her eye level, so she wouldn't have to look up in fear. He spoke gently, softer than a whisper from the wind. "Are you all right, sweetheart? Where's your family?" At first, she couldn't speak. Trauma had wrapped its chains around her tiny voice. Tears became her only language. She tried to shrink further away, expecting punishment, expecting cruelty, because that's all she had seen. But the bikers didn't step closer with force. They didn't grab or demand answers. Instead, they created a wall around her, not a prison, but a fortress, for protection, not confinement. They blocked the world's harm with their presence. Patience won what fear tried to silence. Eventually, the girl found the courage to whisper, "He hurt me, he's coming back." Those words, though spoken quietly, hit harder than any bar fight or roadside ambush these men had ever faced. Their fists clenched, not in anger at her, but fury at whoever dared lay a hand on a child. The air turned heavy, the atmosphere changed. Tough men who had seen everything felt their hearts crack. No matter what name society gives them, there is a law these bikers live by: protect your own, defend the helpless, and never stand idle while evil reigns. Without hesitation, they sheltered her, wrapping her in a leather jacket far too big for her little body, but full of warmth and safety. She held on to that jacket like a lifeline. It was the first comfort she'd felt in a long time. They asked her who hurt her, but she couldn't find the courage to speak the name. She only pointed toward the woods, toward a nightmare that breathed and walked on two legs. And before anyone could ask another question, a man emerged. Rough, aggressive, a predator whose confidence came from preying on those unable to fight back. He shouted at the girl, telling her to come with him, as if ownership was a right he was entitled to. He didn't see bikers protecting her. He saw obstacles in his path. He had no idea he had just stepped into a den of wolves. The Hell's Angels didn't threaten. They didn't raise their voices. They simply stood taller, creating an unbreakable wall between the monster and the child. When the man tried to push through, the bikers didn't need violence to make their point. One look from them made it clear: his reign over her life ended now. The predator tried to justify himself, spit lies, and twist words to make cruelty look like guardianship. But liars tremble when truth stands tall. Members of the club called emergency services, not to save themselves, but to ensure justice would be done by the system designed to protect the innocent. But justice doesn't always arrive quickly. Sometimes it drives sickeningly slow. The man grew violent, realizing he was losing control. He lunged forward, toward the child. That was his final mistake. In a moment faster than a heartbeat, the biker nearest her intercepted the attack, strength fueled by righteous anger. The predator found himself held in place, powerless for the first time. The child watched, eyes wide, not in fear this time, but in awe. Protection was no longer a fantasy. It was real, standing right before her. Police arrived and took the man into custody. But justice wasn't done, because punishment isn't the same as healing. Trauma isn't erased by handcuffs. After the danger passed, the little girl didn't run. She stayed. She clung to the Hell's Angels because, in them, she found not bikers, but brothers, fathers, guardians. They took her back to their clubhouse, not as a guest, but as family. They cleaned her up, gave her food, sat by her side so she wouldn't feel alone. They didn't ask for thanks. They didn't seek praise. Protecting her was not a heroic act in their eyes, it was simply the right thing to do. As hours passed, she learned to speak again. Her voice, once stolen by fear, returned as she realized she was among those who would rather die than let harm touch her again. The club president called social services, ensuring she would be placed in safe care. But when the officers arrived, she grasped his hand tightly, begging not to be taken away. It was heartbreaking. She didn't know the system. She only knew trust, real trust, and it now wore a leather vest with a winged skull. The bikers promised her they'd always be near, that they'd make sure she was protected. They exchanged numbers with care workers, not because it was protocol, but because they cared. And that promise was not empty. Days later, they visited her. She greeted them with a smile, the first genuine smile they had ever seen from her. They brought gifts, but more importantly, they brought certainty. The kind of certainty every child deserves, the knowledge that she was safe. The community heard the story and something changed. People who once crossed the street to avoid the bikers now smiled at them. Those once judged by their jackets became the symbols of courage. Mothers nodded with gratitude. Fathers saluted with newfound respect. Children waved because, in their eyes, these bikers were living superheroes. Yes, the world expects men who ride in packs and roar through the city to be villains. But villains don't save children. Villains don't step between innocence and horror. Villains don't rebuild shattered hope. These men, these Hell's Angels, had faced their own battles in life, survived their own storms, and because of that, they recognized the storm inside her. They didn't ask for permission to care. They didn't wait for someone else to act. They didn't record the moment for applause. They lived their creed, loyalty, honor, and protection. And that is why their story must be told. Not to erase their flaws or rewrite their pasts. Not to pretend that every biker is a saint. But to declare a truth often forgotten. No human being should be judged by appearances alone. There is good in unexpected places. There is heroism where the world assumes wrongdoing. The real measure of a person lies in the choices they make when no spotlight is shining, when the innocent cry out and the world refuses to hear them. The Hell's Angels heard. They responded. They saved her. They became her shield. Now imagine, for a moment, the world if everyone followed that principle. Imagine if instead of walking past suffering, we all stopped. Instead of assuming the worst about others, we looked deeper. Imagine if those society casts aside were invited to protect, contribute, and show the strength of their humanity. How many children would be saved? How much pain would be prevented? How much hope would rise from places no one ever thought to look? We live in a society quick to label and slow to understand. The leather jackets, the roaring engines, the tattoos, these are not signs of criminal hearts. They are symbols of unity among men who found strength in brotherhood. They are reminders that even the toughest exteriors can shelter the most generous souls. That little girl will grow up remembering one powerful truth: angels don't always have wings. Sometimes they ride motorcycles. Those men will remember her too. They'll remember how small her hand felt in theirs. How fear slowly turned into trust. How courage bloomed in the heart of a child. Because someone cared enough to intervene. And whenever they ride past the place where they first found her, they'll remember why they do what they do. Because life is precious, especially the lives of those who cannot defend themselves. Let this story echo far beyond this moment. Let it reach those who feel unseen, those who fear they have no protectors. Let it remind every child facing darkness that there are still warriors out there, listening for their silent cries. And let it remind the world that sometimes the people we fear are the same people who will run into danger while others run away.